Hello and welcome back to another episode of Subjectively Correct, a podcast where two movie-loving pals talk about movies according to a randomly selected theme or subject. My name is Matt and I'm with my buddy Josh.
What's up, cheesy dudes?
We enjoy cheese over here, but we also enjoy movies, including indie and low-budget movies, which is the subject that we have randomly pulled for this episode. We have previously mentioned that we are looking kind of around, the ballpark of movies with a budget of $1 million or lower. I think we're probably both well underneath that anyway with our picks. But yeah, we both pulled one from our lists of magic to throw at the other, and I'm actually really curious about exchanging thoughts here. There's also, I noticed, not to jump ahead too much or whatever, but I have noticed there's more similarities with these films other than our picked theme. It seems like we both kind of chose films about people living in unique conditions. It seems to kind of be the crux of both of these movies in one way or another, which is kind of neat. But yeah, I guess we will jump ahead into what your pick has brought to the table.
Yes. So I have chosen the movie called The Castle from 1997. This is an low-budget Australian movie. It was made for about 750,000 Aussie dollary dues, which is obviously less if you go outside of Australia. But it was also shot and made within, I think it was roughly about 11 days. They did the whole movie. And it's not, a powerhouse of cinematography or anything. It's very much a movie that tells a story, and that's that kind of thing. So it kind of wears its low budget on its sleeve. As I spoke about last episode, if you did listen to that one, I'm very keen to hear what Matt thinks about this, because it's very much an Australian movie that is like become a modern 1997 is become a recent Australian classic, and is one of those films that when you ask people about, what are the top films of Australian films that, people should watch if they want to get into Australian films, this one's probably up there in the top 5 or something, as far as, because it's just so Australian and there's lots of cultural stuff in there and lots of very Australian jokes and that kind of thing. So I'm always curious to see what people from other cultures think about it. But basically, the gist of it is it's a story about a family called the Kerrigans, and it's told by the son called Dale. Dale? I can't remember. I always get their names mixed up because there's a couple of D's. But anyway, they basically live in a house they've lived in their whole lives, and it's right next to the airport, and it's under the airport's flight path, and just the story is the airport decides they want to expand, so they use like eminent domain or whatever to try and take their house. And the father, played by Michael Caton, I'll go through the cast in a sec, basically goes to fight the big guys, and he's a little guy, and it's about a little guy fighting the big guys and taking it to court, and basically going, you can't, take my home, even though it's kind of like a shit home in a shit location, all that kind of thing. It's very much home. Argued that, it's their home that they built as a family, so you can't just, take that and move it kind of thing. So there's lots of, references to, this is what I mean, there's lots of references to like Australian law, there's lots of references to Australian expectations and ways of life and that kind of thing. There's a lot of jokes about bogans, because this family are basically a bunch of bogans, which for the foreigners out there, essentially kind of like rednecks of Australia. That's what bogans are. The kind of people who maybe would live in Florida or Texas, but they live in Queensland in Australia. That's where all the retirees go, and, they vote for conservative parties and all that kind of thing. But without getting into that rabbit hole, the nice thing about this film is, though, that they're not like a bad version of bogans. Like, you can think of like bad rednecks or something who are like racist and horrible and blah, blah, blah. These are just essentially, the blue collar worker, the lower income, the perhaps lower educated as well. That comes up a few times as a bit of a joke. And yeah, that kind of thing. But anyway, just to go through the credits, it's directed by a guy called Rob Sitch, who I'll talk about in a sec. It's written by Rob Sitch as well, and Santo Kilaro, Tom Gleisner, and Jane Kennedy. And they're all part of a group called the Working Dog Productions, who are an Australian mob. They're a bunch of comedians, actually, and they've done a lot of TV shows in Australia. They've done a few movies and that kind of thing. So they're very recognizable names in Australia. Probably nowhere else, and that's fine. But they're very much a staple of Australian, visual media. There's a show that I watch every week at the moment, which is like a topical show, which is hosted by Tom Gleisner, who's one of the writers on this show. And it's, created by the same mob. So they're kind of like a group who've been creating shows for like the last 30, 40 years and have been constantly working in Australia. So they're very well recognized in that sense. It's starring Michael Caton, Anne Tenney, Stephen Curry, Anthony Simone, Sophie Lee, who was a big deal back in the day, Wayne Hope, Terry O'Mora, Eric Bana, and this is like before Eric Bana became international movie star. He was actually a comedian in Australia, which is kind of funny because no one really knows that unless you dig into him. He was a big part of a sketch show that we had on during the 90s. And he was just a real silly fuck. And he made all these jokes and played the complete fool and was very, very funny. And also then Charles Tingwell, who's a bit of an old school classic Australian actor as well. He's been around forever. So he's a bit of a big name in his own right. So yeah, it's very much an Australian film. The reason I love this film though is not only its Australianness, which is always fun if you are from the culture. It's kind of nice to have a little nod to your own culture when you're not, our movie industry isn't like so huge that you can't get away from it. So it's nice to see it when it happens kind of thing. But I also just like the story because I think it's a good story about a family who you probably could make fun of if you wanted to, because they've got all these kooky things going on. They're not the smartest, tools in the shed. They've got funny ideas about things and they don't necessarily, they're not the coolest, quote unquote, people in the world. They're not rich. They're not well educated, all that kind of stuff, but they're just good, honest, hardworking people who kind of represent that idea of what we in Australia would call the Aussie battler, which is an old term that we use here to basically represent the working class underdog kind of position in society. And there's a kind of romanticized notion about the Aussie battler in Australia, as in if you get down to the ground and you work hard and you live an honest life, that's like an aspirational thing to do, as in hardworking, honest, kind, considerate, and showing some compassion, that sort of thing. And whether you are up against it in one way or another, but you're probably not going to be a rich person. You're probably not going to be living in rich locations or anything. You might be just in the suburbs, raising your family, doing the very ordinary thing. But that's kind of a very almost romanticized but very respectable kind of aspect of our society in Australian culture that we do, kind of applaud from time to time. So it's very much a story about, the little guy taking on the big companies and all that kind of thing. So we love an outsider story as well, or, an underdog story, I guess. So yeah, there's heaps more to it. There's like little nuances here and there, but I'm not going to crap on too much. I would love to hear what my German counterpart, Matt, here thinks about this very Australian film and, what your first impressions were and what you thought of it.
Yeah, you've warned me about this being extremely Australian, and it was, kind of like an experiment to see how much I would get and such. I gotta say, I must assume most of the Australian things might have just gone over my head without me noticing it, because for the most part, it seemed to me like a good, understandable, regular comedy in a good sense. You know what I mean? The most Australian thing that I recognized as Australian was the references to the court cases involving Aboriginal rights, etc. That are, one of the plot points, which of course
So just to interject there as well.
Yeah.
Do you know who Mabo is?
Exactly. I was about to say I don't know anything about that. And
that's cool. I wouldn't expect you to.
Yeah. But I want to say, it is mentioned minimally so, though, like purposefully, so that it doesn't need to get into the nitty gritty of those things. And it did, explain the rough bits about it enough for me to know what the hell they are talking about without actually knowing the historic context of that. So I don't really have any
That's
complaints
good.
there. Um, when it comes to like purely like national jokes or whatever, those might just not even have faced me as purely Australian. I don't know. Maybe I didn't even recognize something as a
Yeah.
Aussie joke or something. Who knows? But I liked actually that you just went into the Aussie battler thing. When I was watching the film, because it is very much, in a sense, a court drama attached with the comedy. And while watching it, I was kind of like, these people are kind of funny, but I would have actually liked more of the court scenes and like actually getting into that drama more. Which was a little bit disappointing to me. But like when in the days afterwards, when I was thinking about this film, I was actually like kind of starting to be impressed at the presentation of the family because they are so positive through and through. I don't
Mm.
think there's ever like a single drama between the family members themselves, which is a rarity, I feel, in a film of this kind, especially when it was. If this was a Hollywood production, you would have like all these little quarrels between the family members, I'm sure, like even aside from the major plot points. We
Yeah.
don't have this here, and they managed to do that in a way that does not feel like overly tacky, uh, and still has, I feel, like a genuine effect despite the exaggerated humor, of course. Like it genuinely, and I'm sure this is where the appeal comes from. This genuinely is a very sympathetic family, well presented with good natured vibes, as they use that word in
Mm.
that film as well. That that fight a good fight, and of course, spoiler alert, also win it eventually. All with like a good, even spread of jokes throughout. It's never like, I never thought it was like laugh out loud hilarious. There was never like the big high point where here's all the greatest jokes put in one scene or whatever. It was a very very evenly spread comedy, which is a good thing in itself. I would want to say, and it never
Mm.
breaks that, I think. So I can absolutely see why this is probably considered, especially in Australia, like a go-to, probably feel-good flick that really catches a lot of different audiences. Probably like a good family
Mm.
film or whatever. Yeah,
Well, that's I like just thinking of that. That's where I'm curious about some of the like jokes or
yeah,
humor, which yeah, and I'm not trying to highlight difference or anything. I'm more just interested in what is different or what
yeah,
isn't understood, because obviously there's things I understand, without even thinking. But I'm kind of, when I do think about it, I think, oh, maybe other people won't understand that. So I guess like just to some examples and stuff, like there's a part where one of the jokes which depending on what we choose this time for next episode might come up again in the next film that I recommend you, is is this whole thing of, at one point, I forget how the line goes, but they say something like, oh, you got to go get the Commodore and pull it around front. And I was like, oh, I'll need the keys for the Tirana to get that Ford out so I can get the Commodore out. And then, oh, well, then I'll need the keys for that. And like they're a house of 4 people with 5 cars kind of thing. And
yeah.
did that come across as like a joke, or was that just like a silly
No,
thing?
yeah,
Like,
no. It came across as like a joke. It fit with the the lifestyle they're living, where they are collecting all of these objects. So of them having a bunch of
yeah,
vehicles in front makes sense. Didn't strike me as something
yeah.
especially Australian. If that's maybe something that,
Well, I think it's perhaps like, yeah, the slant on it, because it's very much, again, it's that kind of comment on uh, working class families in the suburbs.
right?
They
Okay.
always end up with way too many cars, essentially. Like that's a thing where, and there'll always be like Commodores or Tiranas or Holdens or Fords, and that's about it, kind of thing, because
Okay. Yeah.
they're the Aussie cars. So if you're a Holden family, you'll have Holdens. So that's why they listed off a whole bunch of Holdens when they said that. Or if you're a Ford family, you'll have Fords, kind of thing. But Holden is like the Australian car, I guess. They don't make them here anymore because the car industry went bust, but that's okay. But yeah, so those kind of things, I think, I'm glad to hear that you can enjoy it regardless, because I feel like you could, like, that would be my guess. But those sorts of things where I think, I wonder if that is really like Australian, or if it does still kind of play and be humorous or whatever. So yeah, I'm glad to hear that it's still, got the same vibe and the same, it is still funny or lighthearted or amusing or whatever, despite maybe not having that particular kind of slant on it that an Australian might have.
Yeah. Yeah, I had a feeling, like, I imagine this actually a perfect example then. I had a feeling it would be this sort of thing throughout the film with the jokes where the basic layer is understandable probably universally, but then of course the details make it give it an extra Aussie star or whatever. I guess that is why most of the jokes didn't like face me as especially foreign or whatever for me. Um, I'm assuming there's plenty
Yeah.
of those little layers around, sure, yeah. But no, I was having a good time.
Yeah, and that's good. That's what I mean. I'm
Yeah,
really happy
yeah,
to hear
yeah.
that, because this kind of thing I always wonder, because I always think it's at the risk of just being completely alienating and going, what the hell, especially with comedy. And if the jokes are a bit too in joke, but it's nice to hear they're not, because obviously that's good. That's what I want.
Yeah.
I don't want it to be exclusionary in that sense. I'd rather it be still entertaining and whatever, even if there are little things that perhaps do get missed or whatever. That's totally cool.
Yeah, no, that totally worked. Yeah, also, like, yeah, you mentioned Eric Bana already. That was probably the only face that I recognized in that whole film. I didn't even know he was an Aussie. That was a good role, though. I think I couldn't really name a single like performance in the film that I would say this kind of flopped or whatever. They all, it also seems like a film where the production must have been fun. At least that's the vibe it gives off, and that's probably also adding to just the good feelings about this.
Well, one of the cool things about when they made it was that, like, the lead guy, Michael Keaton, and even Stephen Curry, who plays the son who narrates it, and the rest of the family, except for Eric Bana and Sophie Lee, the daughter, the rest of the family are pretty much unknowns as well. So they might have been in a few things, but this is the film that kind of made them famous in Australia, at least. So that's kind of cool, because they weren't putting in a bunch of well-known actors. They got people who fit the roles, basically, and which I always think is a good idea, funnily enough.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think I'm glad that the main thing came through for you, where they're a very sympathetic family. Like, they are very, very loving and supportive of each other, and it's not sensationalized. I feel like it's a very kind of grounded, down to earth movie in that sense, or story, I guess, because it is quite believable in that way as well. And it's not all drama. Or I like the way that, they still support their community as well. Like their neighbors and stuff get involved, and they try and help them out. And, again, that's part of that kind of that ideal, if you're in America, it would be called like the American dream or something or whatever.
Sure.
In Australia, it's that thing of, being that kind of aspirational member of society, I guess, where you are considerate of others, and you live well with your neighbors, and you get on, and you're just trying to live your best life and not get in anyone's way and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, I really like that about this movie too.
Yeah. I mean, I've kind of already said it, but it is still it is kind of fascinating to me how well it told a story with obvious, there's a struggle, there's friction, but there's never like malice between the characters, and I feel like that's a hard thing to do and still be engaging. But they pulled it off here.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of things do lean on conflict, I guess, and that's the central kind of catalyst. Like, of the hero's journey or whatever.
Yeah.
I suppose all the conflict is left for like the court stuff where they're just talking to the opposite
Yeah.
position, judge, like lawyers and stuff. But it's like you say, it's not a huge part of the movie. It's a significant part of the story, but it's not like they don't spend heaps of time doing that, which I actually kind of liked because it ends up being more about
The characters.
it's a story about family and and that sort of thing, as opposed to a courtroom drama or something. Like
Yeah, that I realized that afterwards. While watching it, I was having other thoughts. Yeah.
yeah. Well, I think it's worth for anyone listening as well to just explain Mabo, because that's brought up as
Sure.
like a big precedent, which is hilarious because some dude's house in the suburbs has nothing to do with Aboriginal land rights.
Yeah. Yeah.
But in the 80s and 90s, there was a huge, phenomenal, like constitutional changing land rights case, which was basically Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples in Australia, who are our indigenous population, who all the whiteys came over and killed and fucked up, basically.
Mhm.
There was a land rights case with this guy called Eddie Mabo, who was the lead dude taking the government to court, basically saying, no, you invaded my land and this is my land. And, I have rights because of that. Because, no shit. And it was a huge case because ultimately it ended up changing our constitution, where in our, and I'm ashamed to say this, but this is a colonialist history,
Yeah.
where our white constitution basically did not recognize the presence of anyone before the white people came, and basically had a term in our constitution called terra nullius, which basically means that the place was uninhabited, which is obviously stupid because we've got one of the oldest civilizations in the world living here as well, who've been around for like 60,000 years and whatnot. And so, yeah, it changed all of that. It brought a lot of Aboriginal rights stuff into the public zeitgeist as well, which obviously is a good thing, I think. And we have a lot further to go because there's a lot of shit going on about that too. And, just like other colonialist nations around the world, there's a lot of stuff that still needs to be fixed. And we're no different in that sense. Yeah, it's a very, very hugely monumental court case, if not one of the biggest court cases in Australia's history. So in itself, that's kind of a bit of a joke, the fact that they're saying, oh, it's just like Mabo, like, because it's not. It's nothing like Mabo.
And yet, like, I feel like with less.
But it's the vibe,
It is the vibe. I feel like with a less, I don't know, functioning script that could have come out as like really cynical. Here's this white guy fucking using Aboriginal rights for his gain and whatever. But it does not all come across like that. They make it. They
think
write it
because
right.
they're given that kind of naivety about it, and I think that like it's a bit of ignorance that is why they get those things wrong, because they're a bit uneducated and a bit ignorant about certain things. But that's got that innocence to it as well, so it's not done with any kind of malice or anything, which is what I like. It's just kind of, it's funny because it's like more they don't know what they're talking about when they're in court, as opposed to doing something like actually malicious. So
yeah, true. That could have backfired, but it totally didn't. It totally fit the vibe. Yeah. As I said, yeah. I didn't know the vibe. I didn't know vibe was like vibe is a word that's very popular these days. I didn't really know it was a 90s Aussie thing already as well. I mean, I don't know if that was a common terminology already then, but it is in this film.
Yeah, and it definitely got quoted a lot after this film came out.
Interesting.
Everything was the vibe after this film came out.
I think this film probably has a ton of quotes that were thrown around over there, probably.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of people who still say, like, how's the Serenity?
Right. And the whole he's dreaming stuff with all the...
yeah, tell him he's dreaming.
Yeah, tell him he's dreaming.
So that's another thing too. Like the Trading Post is kind of like our, I guess, kind of like Craigslist or something.
Right.
Or whatever. It's almost like what Facebook Marketplace is now.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of taken over, or what eBay ended up being, or I don't know. But it was a newspaper back in the 90s that you could post an ad, like say, I've got a chest of drawers to sell, and someone would call you up and say, hey, I want to buy your chest of drawers. I'll give you $50. I'll come pick it up or whatever. So there's lots of jokes throughout the film about they're always looking at the trading post trying to get a bargain. No matter what anyone's asking, their response is always, "Oh, tell him he's dreaming."
Yeah.
And that has become a part of like Australian lexicon. Like it's that's kind of how influential this shit is, because it might seem silly, but it definitely is part of our, our daily language these days, and our vocab. Even down to Stephen Curry, who played the son, who was narrating. He is now obviously 30 years older because this is an old film, but there's a TV show called Race Around the World, which some people may or may not know. I think there's American ones and that kind of thing as well. But it's basically there's a bunch of teams who go running around the world and complete challenges and stuff. It's a reality TV shit thing.
Mm-hmm.
But they did a celebrity one of those recently, and Stephen Curry was in it because he's since become a well-known actor in Australia. But he was in it with his brother. And it was really funny because his brother kept giving him shit because every time they were doing a challenge or something where they had to concentrate, his brother would just kind of lean over to him and go, how's the serenity? And,
oh, gosh.
Just basically joke about him being in this movie.
Yeah.
and that's why everyone knows him anyway. So, it is kind of part of our, media landscape at least, and part of our modern identity, I suppose, like a lot of the lines from this film.
Yeah, it's wild. It is. I read a bit about the film, the Wikipedia page and whatever. It is kind of fascinating how this completely like, low budget but major box office success and everything. Like, it's wild. Without, I want to say, this having any like major hook to it. It's just a good comedy with Aussie themes. Just in quotation marks or whatever you want to say. It is impressive.
Well, I think as well, part of that is down to the fact that, like, we do have an Australian film industry. There are Australian films being made all the time.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of them aren't that great. It's not an amazing film industry. I'll give it that. It's down to taste a lot of the time.
Yeah.
But having said that, there are good ones that come out all the time. And I think one of the things that in Australia that Australian audiences like is we love having a laugh at ourselves as well. Like, that's very much an Australian thing. Like, we take the piss like English do, or, other cultures do. And, so if a film that's made in Australia and kind of nails those really Australianisms well, and then kind of makes fun of them, we love that shit. Like, that's fucking awesome.
Yeah.
So that's why I think this film like really did it well in Australia, because it's a good Aussie battler story, but it's also, it takes the piss in just the right way. Like how their daughter has, graduated from TAFE, which is kind of like a technical college that is beneath university, but a little bit better than high school. So the fact that they're so proud that she's, graduated from TAFE and everything is lovely, but it's kind of funny because it's like anyone can graduate from TAFE. Like, it's not hard.
Okay.
It's basically like showing up and you're done kind of thing. Or there's like the jokes about them having the greyhounds as well. That's such a fucking bogan thing to do. Is
it? Okay.
Keeping race greyhounds. Oh yeah, like no one else would do that.
Right. Yeah. Okay. I could see that. Yeah.
Or the joke of every night for dinner, how they're like, oh, what do you call this? It's like rissoles. Like, it's always something really basic. like, what do you call this? Oh, it's chicken. I'm like, oh wow,
that's crazy.
like all that kind of stuff is like, so it is poking fun at working class Australian households, basically, but in such a nice way, in a way that like everyone's in on the joke. We all love having a laugh about it, and it's not mean spirited at all, which I think you kind of nailed as well. And I think that's why I love it so much as well, because it is just a feel good kind of movie too.
Yeah. Yep. It felt like that these characters were like really appreciating their simple life, and that's just good to see in general. Can cut a slice
I think
of
as well
that.
I think the embodiment of that is when Daryl meets the lawyer, Lawrence Charles Tingwell, because he happens to bump into this other lawyer who's a really good lawyer, and ends up taking on his case and winning it for him. But the fact that their conversation that they have is like a real, there's so much in that conversation because Charles Tingwell's character is there. He's a retired Queen's Counsel, which is like top of the lawyers you can be in Australia kind of thing. But he's there to see his son, who is, you know, a lawyer himself and working a case, his first case. But Daryl's first instinct is like, oh, you know, what did he do? Is he going to prison kind of thing?
Yeah.
And because his own son is in prison as well. And he's just like so chuffed about it and doesn't see the whole class divide between them, because that's kind of the joke in that conversation is that a lot of people would see that class divide as in like they're rich and educated and successful and blah, blah, blah. And Daryl's essentially an uneducated working class tow truck driver, you know, all that kind of thing. But the fact that he comes at it so, you know, just innocently, positively and respectfully, and, you know, doesn't matter that he's doing that, you know, he doesn't try and cut them down or anything. He just kind of accepts and goes, wow, you must be so proud because your son's doing so well. Like, good on you. Hope it all works out, you know, catch you later kind of thing. And that's kind of what convinces the other guy to take on his case because, you know, that I think is a very key kind of scene for Australian audiences, especially because there's a bit of a thing in Australia as well, which we call the tall poppy syndrome, where a lot of, it's not a good part of our culture, but we tend to like bring people down if they are successful. And if they are if they make a lot of money or if they are really well educated or something, we're a bit anti-intellectualized in that sense. And that's what I mean. It's not a good thing. It's not something I try to subscribe to, but as a culture, that's very much part of our culture. Like there's a lot of racism and stuff in Australia as well, but that's discussion for another time. So, you know, not all of our culture is great. There's a lot of bad things for sure. But I think that's why that scene stands out for me as well, because it is kind of showing that, no, you can just be cool. You don't have to, you know, pull someone down just because they're doing better than you or, you know, subjectively perceivedly better than you kind of thing, because it's all up to you kind of thing. And if you're happy with what you've got and you're pleased with what you're doing, then who cares what anyone else is doing kind of thing. So there's lots of stuff like that in there that I think is really why Australians kind of hook into it a bit as well, because it says a lot about our culture and our society and has a laugh about it too at the same time. So yeah, like I say, we're all for that.
And without being cynical, yeah, I could see that.
I'm glad it came across though. I'm glad it was still entertaining and wasn't just totally nothing.
Yeah, I'm thinking now, like okay, so this is a major Aussie film, and I'm thinking now back to what Germany has got to offer, and I feel like all the major German films are usually like war films. It's kind of cool that you have
kind
such
of a big part of your history too.
Yes, of course. But it's kind of cool that you have such a major positive movie in your repertoire, in your national repertoire, when, for example, my country is looking more at more dire things to hang on to for whatever reason.
I mean, don't get me wrong, there are some brilliant films that are made in Australia about, say, Indigenous experiences and that sort of thing, which are heavy as fuck and really, really brilliant films, but not easy because it's hard subject matter from our own history that is not happy or, you know, aspirational or anything. It's like rank shit, basically. And
I remember I almost like in a
crap in our history, man.
I remember very, very early on, I almost brought one of those, which I love, but then I didn't decide to bring it for the episode because it was too heavy to talk about for me at the time.
Like a German one you're talking about?
No, an Australian historic drama film.
Oh, okay.
Ironically,
I mean, if anyone is interested, I can definitely recommend. There's a film called Rabbit Proof Fence, which I would recommend. And there's another one called Samson and Delilah. They're both about Aboriginal stories and very, very different. Each one's more modern than the other, but very, very good films and very, well, they're not comedies, put it that way, but they're very realistic and very pointed in the best way. Like they've got a statement to make kind of thing, and they're really good at it.
Yeah, ironically, I can't remember the one that I was thinking of. That really is annoying me right now. The name of it. That actually sucks.
I mean, there's another one called there's a real old one. It's called like Seven Canoes or Nine Canoes or some number of canoes. And that's another like classic Aboriginal film.
Oh, my film is The Nightingale from 2018. That was that's a
Oh, okay. I haven't seen that one. Yeah.
that one is amazing. I almost brought it for a previous episode, but then didn't last minute. A long
Yeah,
time ago.
I think I've got that on my list to watch.
I hope so. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway.
But again, you also have the castle over there, which is good. It's good.
Well, and again, if anyone else is interested, I'd say check out Baz Luhrmann's back catalogue. Like he got big when he did Romeo and Juliet.
Oh yeah.
The Mon with Leonardo DiCaprio and stuff. But before that, he made a couple of really Australian films. One in particular was called Strictly Ballroom, which is basically about just these Aussies ballroom dancing, and it's a ballroom dancing film, but it's fucking cool and it's very Australian.
Australian Grease.
I'd also recommend while we're on it, I'd recommend Priscilla if you haven't seen Priscilla. That's an amazing film.
Yeah, right.
There's another one called Muriel's Wedding, which again is very Australian, a comedy as well. But anyway, let's move on. I think we've focused on Australia too much right now.
Sure, fair.
What score would you give it?
Yeah, so like I said, I feel like this is a very, very well made, even comedy. So to me, it's not like super amazing, but it is a good time, and therefore I will be at the boring rating of a 7 out of 10 for me. Though I appreciate, and I can see why it has such a high standing over there. As an Aussie, you gotta give your obligatory 10 out of 10, I assume? Or where is it for you?
Yeah, no, this is 10 out of 10 for me.
Yeah, okay.
It does everything I want it to. So,
yeah.
It's not the biggest production. Yeah, it's not the most life-changing story. It's not, all that kind of stuff. But I guess I'm not like a patriotic person or a nationalistic kind of person or anything.
Right.
But I do like it when people kind of nail the Australian culture, because I think, like every culture, all I hear from other cultures are just stereotypes and things which don't ring true for me. Like whenever I do see Australians in films like fucking Crocodile Dundee or whatever,
Kangaroo Jack,
that's all just that's all stereotype bullshit that, it's funny and we kind of have a laugh and go, haha, yeah, that's an interesting thing.
Yeah.
But I love it when all those like little nuances that, again, not trying to be exclusionary or anything, but like just the things that make it so very Australian. I kind of dig that. That kind of appeals to me, obviously, for probably obvious reasons.
Yeah,
I like when someone nails that, and I think this film in particular nails all those little nuances. So,
hell yeah. Well, and now that we have talked about this, we have talked about this very wholesome and important national film, we are going to move on to the absolute opposite. I want to say
a complete.
You could argue that this film that I brought still represents a nation in a way. We're talking about the USA here, but it is much less flattering. So what I've brought...
While you introduce it, I'm going to eat some delicious cheese.
Yeah, you enjoy your cheese while you can, despite the contents of this film. My film is titled Trailer Town, released in 2003. This was definitely... Again, previously we mentioned the $1 million budget limitations. This one is probably not even in the 3 digits region. This is directed and written by a man called Giuseppe Andrews, who is sort of known for making absolute shoestring films with just the people around his life. I feel like I need to give a little bit of context to this person, because this person is very much the reason for why the fuck this exists, and I think that explains it a little bit more as well. Giuseppe Andrews, there's a whole documentary about this guy directed by Adam Rifkin, which I also recommend. Giuseppe Andrews Makes a Movie, it's called. And it's really interesting to see this guy and his philosophy in filmmaking. This is a man that didn't grow up with much. He lived always in relative poverty, but he did grow up in Hollywood. Therefore, he has in his younger years a couple bit acting bit parts in more major productions. He has little roles in things like American History X. He is in Pleasantville somewhere. He is in Cabin Fever, Independence Day, CSI. He showed up as a small
Do you know
fry.
who he is in American History X?
I have no, just probably just some random
No,
dude with
that's
a
right.
line. I assume. I have no idea. I didn't even know that he was this far spread throughout Hollywood. But again, he never rose to any kind of success. He lived and lives in relative poverty, and he lived or maybe still lives in a trailer park somewhere in the US. And in this trailer park, he made a whole bunch of these complete low or no budget films just with the other inhabitants of the town, kind of giving them something to do in a sense. Though those films are extremely vulgar and nasty and stupid. This one, from the couple that I've seen, might even be the most vulgar out of all of them. Trailer Town, of course, then stars not any big actors. It is all the people that he just has around himself. I'm gonna give them the credit that it's due by listing off a couple of these names. We got Bill Tyree, we got Bill Nolan, as well as Bill Nolan Jr. You got the legendary Vietnam Ron. We got Stan Patrick, Walt Dongo, Ruth Estes, Walter Patterson, Gail Wells. These are all people playing random, I want to say probably caricatures of themselves to some degree. Giuseppe Andrews' philosophy in filmmaking is that he takes never a second take. His scripts are written in one go and never looked back on. It is nonsensical and it is a fever dream put on screen in a sense. I couldn't tell you a plot outline for this film. It's more like a couple vignettes of these inhabitants of this trailer park. And when you watch this film, it's more like looking at individual gross out sketches with the foulest language you have ever seen and the least worry about nudity and feces and whatever you want to talk about. And here's there have been movies before that I have brought to this podcast where I was like jumping on it just for the opportunity to have somebody to talk about them, because these are movies that I would never actually be genuinely able to recommend to anybody. And then rewatching them, I'm growing like slight regrets, and I want to say sorry that I made you watch this. But I still genuinely believe, despite how absolutely vile this film is and how despicable the production is, it is still fascinating to me as a production, especially in context of the behind the scenes look that I have seen through the aforementioned documentary as well. This is genuinely coming from a person or multiple persons that are down on their luck, that don't have much to go on in their life, and this is something how they express themselves. This is a thing that they do to have something to do in their life, and Giuseppe Andrews is genuinely like passionate about this as an art form, even if this doesn't seem like an art to most people looking at it, because we have low life people, for lack of a better term, playing caricaturized low life people, exaggerated low life people that talk foully to each other, that you have scenes where people fuck their own shit and come on their poop, that we have scenes where people just have a bunch of dance lessons with each other. It's just a random amalgamations of the most fever dreamish nonsense, but it is fascinating to just see them do their thing, to how this all came together. And I actually want to say, despite this absolute nonsense that Giuseppe Andrews puts into the mouth of these quote unquote actors, I do actually want to say some of these do give surprisingly good performances. There's early on a lengthy scene of a guy just having a phone conversation with some other unnamed person where you only hear his side. And of course, what he says is complete and utter vulgar nonsense. But he delivers it with such, like, I want to say, authentic honesty that it actually impressed me. And it's like these kind of things. It's just human beings like exploring the ugly depths of humanity without being like completely cynical or hateful. Uh, It's just that we are not a pretty race, and here is just an exaggeration that finds the humor in like less pretty situations, basically. And I really, really appreciate that sort of mindset in art. I think there have been films that more or less delved into that sort of thinking before that I've brought. Um, and here it is in, I believe, one of its most authentic ways. Now, this was a lot of like me glorifying and rambling about this awful, stupid, stinky bullshit movie. I give you like full permission to tell me how stupid I am for thinking this now. What were your thoughts on this film?
Well, I'll be honest with you. You know
Yeah.
I will.
Yeah.
But I'm actually going to ask you straight up, what rating do you give this film?
So see, in the rating, there is the rating is in this case not just my enjoyment of this film, but also the circumstance around the production. So I would honestly possibly go high enough to like an 8 out of 10 with this. This is the third time I've seen this film, and it still
Genuinely.
makes me laugh out loud multiple times. It still
Wow.
kind of blows me away that somebody put this together.
So I have a few questions to ask you before I,
Yeah.
tell you what I think. So what you're saying is that, not just as a fascination, not just as an oddity or a novelty, but you genuinely enjoy this movie and you like it.
I do. Lock
You're
me
willing to
up
hang your hat on that.
if that's a crime. Yes. Yeah.
So we've mentioned this a couple of times in other films where but like there's other films where you've said, oh, it's really vulgar and it's really offensive and stuff. And I get what you're saying, but I didn't actually find that with this film anyway.
Oh.
Like, yeah, there's a dude who likes to have sex with his own feces, but you don't actually see that. Like, it's just talked about. You see,
No, you do see that.
angle
That's
of
one
it.
of the earlier.
You don't see.
And you do
Come on, it's
see
not like
the
porn.
cum shot on the
You
poop.
don't.
So,
But you don't. That's something. It's all kind of secondary source, not primary source, if you know what I mean. And that's fine. Like, whatever. I'm not asking. I need to see it.
right.
But that would be the thing that actually grosses me out more. Would be actually seeing it as opposed to just telling me that's what's happening, kind of thing.
I thought you saw enough, honestly.
But maybe I'm jaded or whatever. I don't know. But it didn't really gross me out as much as I think you've described it. I guess my other question is: have you seen a documentary called "Exit Through the Gift Shop"?
No, not yet, but I have heard of
Which
it.
is a Banksy documentary.
Mhm.
Okay, one day watch that doco. It's a good doco anyway. Like,
Yeah.
completely unrelated to this. But there's a section in it that when you get to it and you see it, I want you to think about this movie.
Uh-huh.
Because there's a guy in it called Mr. Brainwash, and he's making the doco that you're watching. But
Mhm.
there's a point towards the end where he's cut together heaps of different scenes and footage that he's taken and all this kind of stuff. And it is a manic fever dream of a film. And it's so bad that basically it gets changed in the entire film and the film ends up being completely different. That,
Mhm.
to me, looked like an art piece and an amazing bit of cinema compared to this piece of shit.
That's fucking
I've got to say.
Yeah, okay.
And I mean this with all due respect. You can like what you want to like. That's fine. But fuck me, what is this waste of time, waste
No.
of film?
No.
waste of everybody's energy.
Uh-uh.
This, the dialogue, the subject matter, everything. It felt like what like a 12-year-old would think is edgy and cool. Like all the dialogue. There's people who don't naturally just swear, but like are swearing for the effect,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
that kind of thing. You know, who the things they're talking about and everything is like, I don't care how genuine it is. It's fucking juvenile, and it's
Yeah.
just
Totally.
ridiculously try hard. I guess this entire film came across that way to me. Like, there's nothing artistic about it. They're trying to be all cool, but they're not because they're shit. This is the kind of thing you make with your friends when you're 12 and you think you're really edgy and out there. But then as soon as you grow, an ounce of wisdom, you realize that actually it's a bit of shit and you should just leave it in your home video collection and not release it, kind of thing. And like, this is one of the worst pieces of shit I've ever seen, I have to admit.
I'm glad to have brought this into your life then.
I actively disliked it because not
That's
just because
awesome.
it's bad or anything. Like yeah, we've all seen bad films like fucking what's that Tommy Wiseau film or whatever.
The Room.
Like, yeah, that's shit. That's a terrible film. But at least you can kind of see that they were trying to do something. I get where you're coming from. Like, yeah, okay, these guys are sitting around, they got nothing else to do, so they're just filming shit and then putting it together as a film. But that would be all right. And this is where I kind of make the Mr. Brainwash connection, because from Exit Through the Gift Shop, which I'm kind of bummed that you haven't seen because that would be a good example.
Mm-hmm.
But there's even that piece of shit has more intent and less bullshit about it than this film. And, I'm sorry to say it because I feel like I'm being very negative, but I don't know how else to be. But yeah, this like annoyed me, I have to say.
How dare you be negative about my poop sex movie?
But it's not even because of that. Like, I don't care about edgy content. I don't care about any of that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
It's the kind of core behind it, the intent behind it and everything. It just felt so, oh, what can we say that's like super hardcore and cool? But they're not a bunch of kids. They're a bunch of fucking middle-aged to older people. And I get it. They're all crackheads or whatever, and they're drunks and they're, doing what, and they're just kind of hanging out, having some fun. And that's good. I don't take that away from them. They're having a good time. They're making a movie. Cool. Good on them. Rock and roll.
Yeah.
I hope they all had a great time, and that's that. But that's pretty much the only good thing I could get out of this, because it's just infuriating that I don't know how to quite express
that's
how annoyed this movie made me. Mostly because it's so like trying so hard to be so edgy and be so confronting and be out there. And, they're always talking about bitches and pussies and fucking and drugs and drinking, but with no insight, with not even a nihilistic kind of gratuitousness. Yeah. It's just complete try-hard trash.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm sorry to say that, because I wanted to find some good. I wanted to be able to say, yeah, I not my kind of film, but I dug this or whatever. I couldn't with this one, man. I couldn't do it. I'm sorry.
That's all good. I can't say I expected much else, to be quite honest with you. This is very much a special taste case for me, and I'm not expecting anyone else to like jump on that as well. Yeah.
Like, I genuinely do believe, like whatever you want. I don't give a fuck. It's cool. Like, I don't judge anyone for digging. If you find it entertaining, that's great. Fucking rock on. But for my money, I genuinely feel like I've lost part of my life that I'm never going to get back.
Sorry. Yeah.
And that's okay. You don't need to apologize. I willingly went into it.
Yeah. That's awesome.
But I don't understand how, like, I don't understand how you genuinely dig it. And that's why I kind of asked you, like, are you sure? Like, is it more of an oddity or a curiosity, or is it genuinely like, this is a good movie?
It's not a good movie. It is an interesting movie. And it's not just the vulgarity of it that is entertaining me. It's how bizarre it is. Have you ever seen Tim and Eric Awesome Show?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's not really my kind of thing.
Trailer Town. So Tim and Eric Awesome Show is an extremely like offbeat, bizarre comedy show. It's a great, and Trailer Town strikes me as sort of in the same ballpark, but with complete like even less um of a through line, even less of a clear vision. It is as authentic as it gets for what the fuck are they doing? This is totally bizarre and weird, and nothing matches and fits. But uh, for one, it genuinely does strike my broken ass, stupid ass funny bone in a lot of ways. I guess I just like old people talk shit. It's kind of kind of funny in some sense, but it's also again, I think I've talked about this before, that one of the things why I love movies in general is how it is an expression of us and how we use it to express the experiences that we have in our life. And I always love with art when people use the unfortunate circumstances that they are experiencing to create something, even if it's complete bullshit, that puts a more positive spin on their situation, even if it's just a production itself that was enjoyable for them. The final product might be not as grand and glamorous, but it's still interesting to me what results out of circumstances like that. And I think that adds a lot to me for like why I find this complete nonsensical trash so fascinating. So it is that two punch hit, that fascinating context of how this even came to be. Because I also genuinely find Giuseppe Andrews, the main guy behind this, an interesting figure, and my decrepit humor that actually makes me laugh at a lot of these stupid things in this movie because they are so awfully try hard and stupid. Uh, Not because I
Yeah,
genuinely think it is working as intended or whatever, however that may be.
you know that I mean that's good because that's what I mean. I just don't understand it because like yeah,
Yeah,
it's obviously not my sense of humor. I have
which
no
is fair,
fascination
of course. Yeah,
with like just infuriatingly obnoxious crap is the way I would put
yeah, yeah, yeah.
it. And again, I say that without any judgment on you or anything. Like
Oh god, oh
genuinely,
god. Yeah,
because I mean, fuck, I'm into so many films that I think are great that most people in the world think are shit. So that's fine. I get it. Um, like
yeah,
I know what it's like to be on the other side of that, where I'm like, man, this is awesome, and everyone else is like, what the fuck are you talking about? But yeah, sadly, I think I don't know why. I mean, I'd like to theorize on why it didn't work for me or whatever, but I think at the end of the day, it just didn't work for me.
yeah,
It's just not my kind of
yeah.
thing,
It's completely
obviously.
fair.
So
Yeah,
I don't know if there's any deep kind of understanding we can get from that, but
yeah. I think it's just a very lucky mix of things that are going on in my head that make me appreciate this as anything. Wouldn't expect this from anything else, from anyone else. Though to be like these films, these Giuseppe Andrews films do have kind of like a cult status among people for some reason. So I don't know. There's something in them that does something for people, which
is
I
it
like.
among
Which
like
is
hipsters and tryhards?
I don't know. Like this film was
I'm
published
joking,
by
no, I'm joking.
Troma. I think that says a lot about the audience that is probably into this kind of thing.
What does that
If
mean?
you're
Sorry.
familiar with Troma.
I'm not.
Troma are the people that published, especially in the 80s and 90s, a lot of trashy horror films like Atomic Avenger and they're
Okay.
just like an infamous publisher, an American publisher for awful, foul B movie, low budget stuff. That have a couple big cult status films among their belt. Um, they cater to a
Cool.
specific audience, and so it makes sense they picked this up as well somehow. Um, but yeah,
That's what I mean. Like
so
even
even
like trashy B movies, I can appreciate. Like even down to, one of the
This
first
is
ones we
too
looked at
raw
was
for
like
you.
the Ed Wood movie. Like, you know,
Yeah. Hmm.
even those I can see the appeal of, even if they are shit. Like, I can still see the appeal and the interest factor. This kind of thing, like Trailer Town, I'm just like, there's nothing redeemable about this. Like,
But isn't that
there's
awesome in itself? It's
well,
completely unredeemable.
no,
That's actually kind of cool. I think it's cool.
but it's. I mean, I think about it in other ways with different types of art and stuff like books or even visual art, like paintings and that kind of thing. Like, yeah, I'm not the kind of person who thinks it has to be highly detailed or high production values or anything like that, or even good acting or even good writing. Like,
Yeah.
there's stuff I like which would probably, fall out of all those sorts of categories. So that's what I mean. I don't have any good answers. This is kind of a bit of a bum conversation, but I'm interested myself in like why then, like, you genuinely are into this. That's great. That's why I kind of ask you, because I trust you that, yeah,
Yeah.
okay, you are into this and you do enjoy it and that kind of thing. So then I think, well, what is it that makes me not enjoy it, other than just accepting the fact that I don't, but just for the, the exercise of it, to kind of think, well, what is it about this kind of thing that I'm just like, I fucking hate it? And I don't really have any answers for that, which is kind of annoying me as well, because because I'd love to be able to say, oh, it's because blah 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 blah, but all I can give you is like my vibes on it, essentially. Like,
Yeah.
it just feels so juvenile and
Yeah. Totally.
try hard and just, yeah, cynical, I guess, in that sense.
Yeah. And I agree with you on most of those terms. And
Yeah.
I still find it, or maybe especially because of those things, I find it fascinating that somebody dedicated all this time and effort to this with full passion to create this thing. That makes it even more interesting to me. These are
Yeah.
the things that make this a fascinating piece of human creation to me. I don't know.
Yeah.
Even though you despise this thing, which is totally fair, I genuinely do recommend the documentary about the guy to you, because I do think that might
Well,
actually
that
be
I can
interesting
see
to
how
you.
that could be interesting. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can appreciate that might be something worth
Yeah.
watching, for sure. And probably especially worth watching after watching this too, because,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, having seen some of his work, even though it kind of, you know, bothers me to say that.
Yeah. It is a piece of
So,
work. That's for
yeah.
sure.
I mean, anyone listening to us crap on about this film who has watched this film as well, please, I would love to know your thoughts, like, for better or worse, or, anything like that,
Yeah.
because this is to be fair, and this is again half the reason I love doing this discussion with you and like
Mhm.
talking about these things with you, is because, yeah, I'm never going to watch this film. I'm never going to,
Yeah.
I'm never going to love it either. I'm never going to enjoy it. Whatever. If I did watch it, I'd probably turn it off and not finish it.
Yeah.
So, as a kind of, I guess like an intellectual exercise or whatever, it's interesting to watch it and then talk about it and have different opinions and that kind of thing. So I am fascinated if any listeners have a third opinion or a fourth opinion, or, some other ideas about it, or, you know, anything to add, because, yeah, I think this is obviously a divisive film because it's divided us quite a lot.
Hmm.
So that makes it interesting in itself. Doesn't make me enjoy it or respect it anymore, but as a thing, it's interesting to talk about. So, yeah,
Yeah.
I'd be
I agree
definitely
about that.
fascinated if anyone has anything else to add.
Yeah, and if anybody listening to this has not seen this but is kind of interested now, I just wanna like reiterate, like, proceed with caution. Like, yes, it's juvenile and stupid and nonsense, but it's still filthy. I think we both are a bit jaded, but I think lesser so might actually have problems with this film, straight up.
Oh yeah, I can see it really turning people off and like making their stomach turn in parts and that
Yeah.
kind of thing. I guess, I don't know. So that's another thing that I like to perhaps think about and explore. But obviously, I don't know the answer. But like, quite often, these films that you've told me are like, "Oh, this is full on. This is going to make you feel sick or whatever.
Mhm,
I'm like,
mhm.
man, I feel like, and this is again, nothing you've done wrong, but I feel like I've been overhyped for it kind of thing. And it's been kind of underwhelming. And when I eventually watch the thing, like whether it's Men Under the Sun or whatever,
I
like,
was
there's
about to
some
say,
nasty
yeah.
shit in there. Like, there's definitely nasty stuff
Underwhelmed
there,
by the
but
real body, by the real human corpses in Men in the Sun.
well, I guess maybe either I've seen things that for me made my stomach turn more,
Yeah,
like a
okay.
more gory or intense or whatever, or more body horror kind of stuff. Or there's just my own imagination kind of comes up with the most crazy foul shit. And then I
Mhm,
see it and I'm like, oh, that's not so bad.
mhm.
Do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
so I don't know. I don't know if that's part of it as well. Like, yeah, like most of the stuff in Trailer Town was, yeah, like you say, there's gross shit. Like, there's a dude who goes on a date with his shit, quite
Yeah.
literally, and then
Yeah.
fucks it. And yeah, I'm not saying that that's run of the mill. Everyone should be okay with that. Like, that's
Yeah.
fucking weird and quite offensive for sure. But at the same time, I guess I don't know. I remember there was one film that I was really grossed out with where they were basically doing a lot more with a lot more feces, if that makes sense.
Hell yeah.
And that grossed me out. So maybe I don't know. I'm guessing here. I'm trying to, again, like I say, I'm trying to theorize as to why I have this reaction or this opinion or whatever. My first instinct is like, oh, maybe I've seen grosser shit, but then maybe I haven't. I don't know. Like, whatever. It could be something completely different because like I'm not an expert on these things, but I
Yep.
do find it interesting, like why we react to things differently or why we rate things differently, not like in a star rating, but as far as gross level or horror level or even comedy level or whatever. It could be anything. Like to just take it back a bit, like talking about The Castle, you said, oh, it's a very kind of mid, not mid as in quality or whatever, but the comedy is very like, flat throughout, I guess. Is it keeps the same
Yeah, very
kind of level
coherent.
of jokes,
Yeah.
and that's the one. Yeah. Whereas for me, there are definitely parts in that where I'm pissing myself.
Yeah. Okay.
So we have a different reaction in that sense, and then obviously with Trailer Town, we have different reactions too. So
Yeah.
yeah, like I say, I find it fascinating to think about why those sorts of things come up and why why I do have that dislike for it, or even on other films, like why I do really like it, but other people are like, what are you talking about, man? So yeah, like I said, I don't have any answers though, so it's deeply unsatisfying. But that's why I'm fascinated to hear other points of view as well, because it kind of helps inform my own.
Yeah. No, I think the things that gross people out or not are fascinating. And I think that is also one of the reasons why I tend to enjoy bizarre films like this, like Trailer Town. People actually
Yeah.
pointing cameras at, even if it's just conceptually representing something that nobody else would want to look at, is just interesting to me to put that front and center, even if it's represented in a very crude way. But I get, obviously, why that doesn't strike you as interesting. And I can't say I expected like any more glowing reaction from you about this. This was purely to see, to talk about it for me
Yeah,
with
and that's what I mean.
somebody
That's
else.
cool.
Yeah, exactly.
That's
I
cool.
got out of this what I wanted. I'm not at all like disappointed with your reaction to it or
Yeah.
anything. So, giving all of that, I wonder also much what numerical rating you might give this masterpiece of a film.
I mean, anyone playing along knows exactly what I'm about to say. It's bottom of the barrel. It's half a star out of 5. Like
Yeah,
that's the lowest rating I can give it.
not even a number 2 for the poo.
No 2 for the poo.
Was there?
No
I
novelty
actually I
ratings
want to
here.
ask this. I want to ask this before giving my rating. Was there even a single little detail that you actually kind of enjoyed or thought was interesting or funny? A single little bit ever?
And honestly, I tried to think of if there was. or,
That's
anything like that. And I have to
crazy.
say, no, honestly, nothing about this movie like made me even enjoy a little bit of it.
That's awesome.
And I
That is
put in there as
awesome.
well, like there are other low budget films I've watched which are better. There's one
Yeah.
in particular, I can't remember what it's called, and I'm not going to spend the time looking it up now because I'd have to troll through my history on Letterboxd. But it's an independent American film, basically about homies in the ghetto, for want of a better word. And it's really badly made. Like, it's budget as fuck. And the acting is bad, the writing is bad. They're also trying to be like super cool, like, hey, we're like gang banging drug dealers and stuff, and like, acting like they're super cool and
Uh-huh.
things. And they kind of overdo it a bit and all that kind of stuff. There's shots where the boom mic comes into the shot all the time because they're not very good at
Yeah.
operating a boom mic. All this kind of stuff. Even that movie looks like a masterpiece compared to Trailer Town. Like, I think I would have given that a half star or a 1 because I could at least see what they were trying to do, and I could see the potential or the purpose in their actions. Whereas I don't see any redeeming features about this film or any kind of purpose to it, other than look at us, we're so edgy, which is a zero-sum game for me anyway. And yeah, so
Yeah.
unfortunately, I'm sorry, but yeah, this is like the lowest of the low for me.
I'm glad I have like found this though for you before we finish this project. It kind of I see it as an achievement for myself, to be quite honest. Uh,
Well, I'm glad
but
you're
yeah,
happy about it.
yeah. That being said, like of course I mentioned this earlier as we talked about my rating at the beginning. Pretty
Yeah.
much, I'm giving this probably an 8 out of 10 because again, it's the storm of the context of the production, and then my decrepit funny bone that actually likes a lot of this stupid wannabe edgy humor. For me, it just works as a fascinating project and as a
But don't
funny,
those kinds of
nonsensical
people just
farce.
piss you off though?
I think there is a line that is like easily stepped over, but I don't think it is for me with this one, with these people. I actually find these people interesting and not like in a like looking at animals at the zoo way. Like actually, these are people that I kinda want to know, learn about, talk to actually, because they just seem like interesting personalities. What interests me in art is how different people with their experiences decide to express themselves in art, and I think that is the angle that makes this interesting to me. Not that I enjoy them glorifying any bad behavior that they might or might not also have in their real life. I don't know that, or I don't care to know. It's just interesting to me that these people decide to express themselves, come together and express themselves in this way. But yeah, that is a well enough talk about this thing.
Yeah.
So let us actually move on. So usually at this point we would be pulling the next random theme. As we have
Oh, yeah.
already like announced in the last episode, we are planning to end this project subjectively correct towards the end of the year, which means concretely that we have one more episode to go for which we will not pull a random subject, and instead we will just have a free for all. Each of us chooses a film of their choice with no restrictions to show the other as a final hoorah. And Josh, why don't you reveal what you got from me then in this finale?
I'm still in two minds. There are two films I'm thinking of, and I have been thinking of for a while.
Mm.
And they're both films that throughout our time talking together on this podcast, I've always kind of thought, oh, well, if it fits a category, I'll name one of these films. I think I know which one I'm going to pick, though. And it is one of my favorite films of all time. So, there's that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if it'll be really up your alley, but that's okay. Whatever.
We
Yeah, let's go with
established
this
that
one.
that's not a priority.
But hey, that's why we do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is a film from 1993 called Killing Zoe.
Killing Zoe.
Which
Why? What did Zoe
as
do?
a very as a very simple summary, it's a heist film.
Oh, okay.
But it has very interesting. I think it's got an interesting backstory. It's got a fantastic cast and an amazing execution, and it's basically just a rad film. One of my favorite films of all time. So let's have that one.
Interesting. Yeah, I'm absolutely completely unfamiliar with this. I've never heard of this. So I'm curious to go into this black box. For me, I don't think my pick is going to be much of a surprise to you. This has probably been mentioned in previous episodes. But I have decided to finally force you to watch another of my formative favorite films, which is going to be 1996's Joe's Apartment, the cockroach musical that I adore so much.
Well, I can happily say that I want to see this anyway. So,
which is surprising to me since you do hate musicals. So.
I do hate musicals, but that's okay. I can get past it. Well, and there's a certain type of musicals that I particularly hate. I don't mind other musicals, but
right,
just most of the stage ones like Gilbert and Sullivan crap and all that kind of thing. I can't stand it.
Right. Yeah, this one is probably not gonna hit that note. Yeah.
But other ones, like I recently rewatched Little Shop of Horrors.
Yeah.
Love that one.
There we go. Okay.
I love Rocky Horror Picture Show. That's technically a musical.
True.
You know, there are musicals that I really like. There's a whole lot that I don't. So anyway, I'm interested to see Joe's Apartment. I'm glad you picked it because yes, I would actually like to see what the deal is.
Heck.
And Jerry O'Connell.
Yeah. In a very, very early role.
Which for listeners listening, I think we discussed it off air another week. We're talking about Jerry O'Connell and the fact that Joe's Apartment, I think, is like your Jerry O'Connell thing, Matt.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Whereas for me, I always remember him as the guy from Sliders, the TV show, which you may or may not know because it was a 90s thing. And yeah, it's just one of those things. Plus, he was in Stand By Me, so
exactly, a fantastic movie as well.
Love a bit of Jerry O'Connell.
Same.
See, we can agree on some things. Stand By Me rules.
Yeah, we totally. Yeah, sometimes we find those things. All right.
Yeah.
Well,
awesome.
On that positive note, if anybody has stuck around until this point, very proud of you. Yeah, thank you for listening to this. Please feel free to let us know any thoughts that you might have about these films or anything else that comes up while you
and
listen
whenever
to
you
these
listen to this as well. If it is like after the fact and later, hit me up on Discord or something. I'd love to hear what you think.
Yeah, sure. Always.
I do find it fascinating.
Send me a pigeon with a letter attached. It will probably find me. Well, with that, this is us. We're gonna go and say goodbye. Bye-bye.
Yeah. Until next time.
Yep. Until the last time.
The best time.